fine. Final Fantasy X is in many ways known and loved similarly to FF7, being the first in the series on a new PlayStation of the time, and taking full advantage of that cutting-edge software. While Final Fantasy VII showed off the 3D graphical potential of the PSX, FF10 blew everybody away with full voice acting on top of the frequent pre-rendered cutscenes. Yeah, we kinda neglected the Final Fantasy series up to this point outside of the FF7 remake episode. Now, after recently wrapping up several series in Season 10, we can finally dive in headfirst into one of the biggest franchises in gaming. Guess this is just as good a place to start as any, considering it was many PS2 owners' first Final Fantasy, on top of the fact that the PS2 is still the best-selling video game console to date. If it were just a popularity contest, Final Fantasy X kinda has a leg up there. It's not just about numbers though. This game's highly regarded for its great graphics, music, unique gameplay, and of course its story. It also seems to be particularly huge with its female fans. Wait a second, but we're playing the FF10 remaster build with 10 too, so shouldn't we also—
No!
FF10 is everything you'd expect from the 10th supposed Final Fantasy, with turn-based RPG battles with magic sorcerers, powerful summons, and monsters spread out over the course of a massive, colorful fantasy world. However, FF10 strays from the norm in some interesting ways, without compromising its established formula. For one, instead of relying on active time battle, or ATB, to determine when players and monsters act, the game visualizes the turn order system based on everyone's stats and current buffs, making strategy over quick thinking the name of the game. Another big change came in the form of the sphere grid system, where every character shared one massive skill tree where they could spend their earned points from battle and customize their stats and abilities. However, to increase character individuality, they all start at different points on the same sphere grid and must work their way toward the skills and abilities that interest them the most, though still kind of makes it possible to turn anyone into anything. Each character also gets a supercharged overdrive attack akin to a limit break, where they can unleash their own flavor of hell after building up their own gauge. This is true for everyone except Yuna, who utilizes her training as a summoner to call upon various Aeons into battle. The party unites under Yuna and aids her on her journey across the vast world of Spira to assemble more Aeons and eventually challenge the overwhelming power of Sin, a disastrous ethereal calamity, or die trying. And as open as that sounds, the game's actually quite linear, questing around the world like connect the dots, which isn't really a problem unless you find yourself trapped by the plot in front of a huge boss, unable to backtrack and better prepare yourself. Luckily, you can always grind, but since the sphere grid replaces traditional XP, this can feel especially hopeless if you haven't been upgrading your characters optimally. Yeah, it's actually pretty hard, but that's what makes the sphere grid system so rewarding, since you're the one who completely built your character, and by the end game, you'll be so supercharged with power that nothing will stand in your way. Oh, and a lot of those dungeons have some of the most irritating puzzles I've ever dealt with, and this thing didn't even fix how frustrating some of those freaking temples got! Ah, come on man, just relax and play some blitzball. How come the laws of physics cease to apply underwater? Is it really so that people can play water Quidditch without needing to breathe in giant liquid spheres? Yes! And never mind, I'll just take the summon hunting. Sports ball! This is the first Final Fantasy with fully modeled 3D backgrounds to explore. The PSX trio all tried to utilize pre-rendered backgrounds with preset camera angles to get around this, which worked, but we all kind of knew it wasn't the real deal. Even if they tried, the disc case would have been the size of a refrigerator. Switch to disc 2. Ooh, switch to disc 3. Ooh, switch to disc. These cutscenes are so cool and well made, it's a wonder how many of them they managed to cram on a single PS2 disc. Switch to disc 7. Oh. Switch to disc 8. And that's ignoring the fact that this game came out in the Brown era, where games all seem to have this gross, muddy tint to make them look realistic and hide the imperfections. But instead, FF10 looks like a beautiful, full-color marvel. I'd say Square was ahead of their time, but FF12 hopped on that brown bandwagon like it wasn't invited to the birthday party, so it just threw its own to compromise. Oh. Switch to disc 15. And there's the character and tribal creature design. Granted, Seymour looks like an inbred Hercules beetle, but the main cast looks so great and unique, like Brain Damage Wario, Magical Girl, Rurouni Kenshin, Cat Unicorn, Surfer Racist, Belts, and Dumb Blonde.
Switch to disc 22. Switch to disc 23. Switch to disc 24. Switch to disc 25.
Are you done making fun of the PS1? Hey, come on, I almost got to the title screen! This bumbling doofus is Tidus, a famous blitzball player from the metropolitan city of Xanarkand, where he competes in a tournament in honor of his father who's been missing for 10 years. But he kinda hates his dad anyway, so whatevs. Tidus plays the sports ball thing for a while until a colossal wave of a monster attacks and destroys the entire city. We're still playing Final Fantasy, right? After Tidus awakens in a strange land known as Spira and has to slowly learn all of the language of the locals, one goddamn letter at a time, to acclimate to this new world, he soon meets up with Yuna, a summoner on a pilgrimage intent on defeating Sin, the monster that destroyed Xanarkand 1,000 years ago. Plot twist! Joining Yuna as bodyguard Mooks, the rest of the party just kinda gets dropped in your lap and off you go on Yuna's great quest. And you'll quickly begin to realize that even though your main character just freaking time traveled a millennia, Tidus isn't really the main character. Double plot twist! This is Yuna's story, as she copes with the heavy burden of becoming a powerful summoner like her father to eventually ward off Sin. However, she's also well aware that the final summoning rite will ultimately kill her, and even though she's marching forward to save everyone's lives, she's also assuredly marching toward her grave. Tidus is more like a bystander helping and watching Yuna complete her journey. The two of them also get kinda lovey-dovey, which is definitely gonna end well in a story about inevitable death. Well, yeah, as the world is obviously full of giant fantasy monsters that are all ironically the deceased people from Spira who weren't sent on by a summoner. So Yuna will need help cleansing the land of its monsters, as well as performing many sending rites so she can help alleviate this unending battle against Sin. Right, because the whole you die unsent, you become a monster thing is Sin's gig. If you're getting confused already, just know that I promise you that this gets way more complicated, so just don't ask any questions. So another weird thing Tidus notices about Spira is the religion of Yevon, ironically using a gesture for blitzball, as if it were somehow established from centuries of sports fanatics not paying attention during Sunday school. I made the mistake of asking questions, and I promise you the lore and Wikipedia pages run deep, my friend. Anyway, it's the Yevon guys who are making Yuna go on her pilgrimage. They even try to force her into marrying the local loveless walking hair gel display Seymour just because of his rank in Yevon. Though he doesn't really add up to anything in the story other than romantic drama, you do fight him quite a lot throughout the game for padding. This really is just a romance story told in a fantasy setting where two star-crossed lovers are kept at arm's length from each other because of religion and duty. If anything, it's sad watching the two of them go on a quest they both know will eventually fail and it's completely pointless and will only get them killed, but they still force a smile and try to laugh anyway, resulting in some hilarious out-of-context memes, I might add. Tidus would have absolutely nothing to do with this story were it not for the revelation that Sin is actually, somehow, Jecht, Tidus's missing father from the beginning. But we still hate him anyway, so whatevs. Yuna eventually decides to refuse the final summoning and challenge the Yevon god, holding the people trapped in this cursed cycle and attempt to kill Sin for good. But this also destroys the faith statues, holding the Dream Xanarkand together, resulting in the entire city, Tidus included, to vanish forever. Dream Xanarkand... Faith is dead... Just smile and nod. It's a really sad ending, with a twist of which character was going to die by the end, as Yuna addresses Spira, letting them know that their days of living in fear of Sin and monsters are over, at the expense of the bumbling doofus she fell in love with along the way. Yeah, she mourns by becoming a flashy fighting pop idol alongside her besties.
No!
I like it. It gets on my nerves at times. Full voice acting is amazing for the PS2. This is actually the first Final Fantasy where the soundtrack wasn't completely created by Nobuo Uematsu. Granted, the soundtrack is enormous, and trimming it down for this episode took me hours alone, but still, he's just one guy. It's also got some incredible vocal tracks, like the main theme, Suteki Dane, Isn't It Wonderful? And that wild screamo song, Otherworld, opens and closes the game, throwing off players who expected a magical medieval fantasy game, but instead found themselves watching sports and listening to this, like... Go, if you want it, another one awaits you. Don't you give up on it. Not only is this remastered PS2 classic readily available on nearly all modern platforms, but it's also bundled with its remastered sequel, FF10-2, and its short post-game sequel, FF10-2 Last Mission, alongside a bonus cutscene connecting 10 and 10-2 Eternal Calm. No. Just play 10. But it comes with all that other stuff!
No!
The positive gamer in me gives Final Fantasy X a 7 out of 10. Though I do think it's above average, I just personally don't hold any nostalgia for the game, although I do greatly respect it for what it is and for what it accomplished, though I admit it's probably just because I'm a little butthurt about those stupid puzzles and difficulty spikes. The critical gamer in me found Final Fantasy X to be worthy enough of a 9 out of 10. Though the game has its snags, they don't hold back the monumental strides forward this game made in terms of experimentation and pushing the envelope forward in terms of what can be accomplished in a single video game, in spite of Seymour's hair. But what do you think? Let us know how your positive and critical side rate Final Fantasy X in the comments below. Happy New Year, folks, and be kind to everyone you share this world with in 2023. Unless you're as unapologetically racist as Waka. Then you're just playing with yourself. Damn Albeds.
Everyone can be your friend.
Okay, I don't even care how you feel about Final Fantasy X. Their designs for their creatures this time were just amazing, and Kim's got so many of these figurines, I hope you got a good chance to even see them during the video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and use the links in the description to nominate your own episode. And thank you to all of our Patreon members, Arrow, Aspen, Sid, and Genio. See you!